morning. It is Tuesday. Tes Shvat Tovshin Ayin Tes. We are in Teres Menachem Sefer Mamarim Tovshin Yud Gimel. In the Mamar of Yud Beis Tammuz Tovshin Yud Gimel. Leman Daas. We are on page Kuf Pei Zayin. And we are 6 lines from the top. The line starts by Shamayim. We are at the full stop. We are at the full stop. V'habir bazeh. We are in the middle of addressing the issue of Havaya Hu Elikim Bashamayim. The Havaya and Elikim, the Oiris and the Kelim, the divine lights of the attributes of Atzilus, of the world of emanation, and their vessels are one. Shemaim is a reference to Atzilus, Havaya is a reference to the Oiris, the divine lights, Elikim is a reference to the Kelim, the divine vessels. And the Rebbe explained that the lights on their own are pshutim, are pure, unformed, and therefore unlimited. The kelim, the vessels, impose limitation on the divine lights. In which case, it would seem that the lights and the vessels are opposites. Nonetheless, we say that Havaya Hu Elikim Bashamayim, that the divine lights and the divine vessels, the Eris and the Kelim, Havaya and Elikim Bashamayim, in the world of Atzilus, emanation, are one. How is that? That's where we're up to. V'habir bazeh. The explanation is this: the Hinei Inyan Ha'oir Hu Shemeir. The idea of light is that it shines. And that one receives from it illumination, a ray, illumination. And in order for the divine lights of the world of emanation should be in such a manner that a ray should be drawn from it, it should be able to give off a ray. And the one that receives, the receiver of that light, should be able to actually receive that light. It should be in accordance to the capacity of the receiver. This is accomplished only by the limitation and the measure of the light being in accordance with the capacity of the receiver. In other words, Shizeu Inyan HaKli. This is what the Keli accomplishes. This is the idea of the vessel. This is the function of the vessel. Because the light in its own right is unlimited. And the Rebbe gives an example. Just as we see in a person down here below, in a human being, if a great wise man will bestow his wisdom without consideration of the capacity of the student that receives from him, then not only will the student not receive anything from this, even though the Rav, the teacher, is communicating with conveying a concept to the student, but if it's beyond the capacity of the receiver, of the student, not only will the student not receive anything, but on the contrary, he will confuse the abilities, the perception abilities, the comprehension abilities of the Talmud, of the student, to the extent that he will not even be able to receive any conceptual idea, even if it is in accordance to the capacity of the student. Why? Because it's completely confused. What's required for the Talmud, for the student, to be able to receive the idea that's being communicated? In order for the student to be able to receive a ray from, in other words, to grab hold of an idea of that which the teacher is communicating to him, this is accomplished specifically through the vessel. What's the vessel? Hainu, this is through the limitation, the limit, and the structure, the form, that the Rav imposes, causes to happen in the light of his wisdom, considering the capacity of the one that is receiving from him. Move on. From this, it's also understood, going back to our case, the Oir of Atzilus, the divine energies of the world of emanation. From this, it's understood, in order for the divine lights of Atzilus to be in a manner, in a mode of light, meaning to say, what is the purpose of light? Hainu. It means that the light should be drawn down and absorbed and taken by the one below. That's the whole point of the light. This is accomplished specifically through the vessel. The light in its own right is too powerful for there to be any benefit from it without the kli, without the vessel. So what do we see from here? Point one, that the light needs and wants the imposition, as it were, the limitation, the structure, the regulation that the vessel imposes on it. So too it is also concerning the vessels. Although it seems that what is the idea, what is the function of the vessel? The idea of limitation and contraction, it limits and it contracts the light, the energy. What is the purpose of the Keli's limitation and contraction of the light? It's not just to hinder it. It's not to hinder the light. It's not in order not to allow the light to shine. On the contrary, the whole purpose of this limitation and contraction that the Keli imposes on the divine energy is leila hasted of limina. It's not in order to hide and to hinder the drawing down of the light lower down. Ela adrabe, to the contrary, the whole purpose of the Keli's, the vessel's limitation and contraction of the light is bishvil hagili lemata, for the purpose of the light being able to be revealed down here below. Just like in the parable of the teacher, when he wants to reveal his wisdom to a student of small capacity, very small capacity. He then looks for ways how to reveal his wisdom, and that is the function of the keli, of the vessel, nimtza. Therefore, what's the result? Therefore, we come to the conclusion that the limitation and the contraction of the vessel, that the vessel it causes in the light, it is a means through which the revelation of the light should take place. Right? So in other words, neither the oil nor the kli are working at cross purposes. The oil wants and needs the limitation of the keli. The keli, the function of the keli of the vessel, of limiting, contracting, is for the purpose, for the benefit of the light. It's looking for the light's benefit. The light is to shine and to be absorbed and being able to be handled by the one below.
I don't quite understand that.
Therefore, Havaya Elokim is one.
The motion of the teacher and the student.
What's the problem?
Well, the teacher's got his information, doesn't need the student.
It's just emotional.
I understand that, but the
We're
student.
talking about a teacher that's communicating with the student. He wants the student to understand. The Oir wants the ones below it. The whole function of the Oir is to illuminate those that are below it. If the Oir,
Not necessarily, that's what I don't understand. It's just the limitation of the marshal, because the teacher, he's got the light, he doesn't need the student. If he wants to give it down to the student.
we're talking about if he wants to.
If he wants to.
Of course. Now, the light is brought into being solely for the purpose of shining down below. In that sense, it's similar to a teacher choosing. We're not talking about whether the teacher has a choice. He's not talking about the difference in the
The
sense.
point is, in that marshal, if the light, the teacher has to contract his light first.
Correct. That's exactly the point.
Yeah, so it's what's to do with the Kali. It's the Kali isn't doing the contraction, the teacher's doing the contraction.
The Keli is not the Talmud. The Keli is that which causes, that which allows
Within
the
the
teacher,
teacher.
correct,
I see.
which allows the teacher to regulate, to reduce.
Right. So you're talking about the light within the teacher, nothing. You're not
Correct.
yet. It's like the upper part of
Correct.
the first 3 minutes, so to speak.
Yeah. We're talking just like Ur.
Yeah.
When we talk about Ur and Keli, the Keli is also not the Mekabel.
Yeah. The
We're
first
talking about
3 minutes hasn't yet been the modification is taking place inside yourself.
precisely. So in other words, in order for Atzilus to be able to,
like eventually, like the Klida Mekabel, like if you speak of this teacher, speak to this child,
That's the next
and
3
he
minutes.
to a different child.
That's the fine. That's the
okay, so now you're talking degrees of contraction.
So also there is like, yeah.
Eiris of Atzilus, the divine energies of Atzilus are there in order to transmit down below. If you remember, with one of
Yes,
the
I
things.
accept that.
Yeah. The whole that's the whole function of Ur. Otherwise, Ur would not come into being. So, in order for Ur to be able to fulfill its purpose, its function, it wants the Keli and it needs the Keli. Similarly, the Keli is not there. It's not a barrier. It's not there to hinder the divine light. On the contrary, it's there to assist the Ur in its function of projecting itself, and for the Mekabelim to be able to receive it. Valpisa Yuvon. According to this, we will understand Ha'inyan Havai B'Lakim B'Shamayim. Right? Shamayim in the pasuk over here that we're discussing, the verse we're discussing, is a reference to Atzilus, the divine energies of Atzilus. In Atzilus, we say Havai Hu Elikim. Havai and Elikim are one. What does that mean? Shaha'eris v'Akelim Minyanam Echad. That the divine lights and the divine vessels are all one. Are one. They're the same. One of the same concept, idea. Why? Because the divine light, whose whole raison d'etre is in order to bestow down below, to communicate down below, to illuminate down below, this divine light, it must have and it needs these vessels. Because without the vessels, the divine light will not be received below. On the contrary, the divine light not only will not assist, cause any benefit down below, it'll confuse things below.
It won't be absorbed.
It'll ruin things below. It'll cause the one below to break up, just like in Elam HaToyu. So that's from the point of view of the Ur. So from the point of view of the Ur, it needs the vessel, it wants the vessel. So Havaya Hu Elikim. The other way around also, Elikim and Havaya are one. So to the vessel. The whole idea of the vessel is to limit. But what's the point of the limitation of the vessel? The whole purpose is, the intention is, what's the intention? Not the limitation, but rather the revelation that comes as a result of that limitation.
Yeah.
And that contraction. Therefore, the result is, the conclusion is, that in order for the Keli to exist, in other words, that the Keli should be able to fulfill its function, which is to allow the Ur to be transmitted on in a regulated and acceptable manner to the one below, the Kli needs and wants the light to be transmitted and to be revealed through it. Clear? Now here's something very interesting. If you look at the very end of this chapter that we just finished, the bottom line, there is a star, an asterisk. And below the line, there is a note, which continues on to the next page. This Mamar is an unedited Mamar. There are two types of Ma'amorim, two types of Hasidic discourses published of the Rebbe. The Rebbe said all these Hasidic discourses. They were then transcribed. Some of them, about 250 or so of them, were subsequently edited by the Rebbe. They were given into the Rebbe. The Rebbe made copious notes and additions and on that draft. That's called an edited Mamar, Mamar Muga.
Okay.
If you look at the beginning of this Mamar on page Kuf Pedal, it says Hanocha Bilti Muga. This is a transcription that was not edited. However, as a matter of course, whatever they transcribed, they gave into the Rebbe. It's just that some the Rebbe chose to edit, some he didn't. Obviously, the ones that are edited have, as it were, the seal of accuracy in every aspect. This is a transcription of the ones that transcribed it and gave it into the Rebbe. But like I said, as a matter of course, all of them were given into the Rebbe. And here, the Rebbe added a note. This note at the bottom of the page is an addition from the Rebbe. Even though he didn't edit it. In other words, he made some minor remarks. Could be that they asked the question or whatever.
How did they know he edited? Because you could see he's writing.
No, he would give it. Yeah, of course, they would give it in. The Rebbe would.
And this one, he just put this little note.
I think if you look at the beginning of the book of the Sefer, if you look at very very beginning, before all the Mamorim, you actually have, or you have some facsimiles of the Rebbe's handwriting. Sometimes he would make notes on the right. This is from the Rebbe. This is the Rebbe's handwriting. Yeah. Okay. So the Rebbe explains over here two things. He says like this. The Rebbe breaks it down, clarifies even more in the note that there are two aspects in the Oir and two aspects in the Kli, in which each one of them is similar to the other, and because of which Havayahu Elikim. Let's see what the Rebbe says. Bebiur inyan zeh, to explain the idea that we just learned, Kostav Kovet Kedusha Admur Shlita B'Ksav Yad Kodshe. The Rebbe wrote in his holy handwriting, quote, Beis inyanim b'ha'ir, there are two aspects in the Oir, in the divine light. Shemisdame o miskarav behem lekli, in which it is compared and comes close to the vessel. Aleph. The one aspect is inyan utchuna ba'atzmai shedimah bolakli. There's an aspect within the light itself in which it is similar to the vessel. Vahainu. This is zeh ha'ir kilu neimar. It's as if we will say that the light shenoisei ba'atzmei machshava al dvar mekabel ha'ir. It's as if to say, in other words, the aspect in the light itself, in which it comes close to the kli and gives consideration to the kli, it's as if we shall say that the light within itself carries a thought about those that are going to receive its light. Hainu, machshava mitzum tzemes. This is a contracted thought. Being that it is about something which is limited and contracted. I'm just going to say the words and I'll explain it. Beis, the second aspect, that the light is, so to speak, lacking. And it cannot fulfill its function. It's only through the vessel that complements the divine light. So he says like this. In explaining the idea of Havaya Hu Elikim, that Oirus and Kelim are one, the idea basically is that there is something in the light which is similar to the vessel, and there's something in the vessel that's similar to the light. As a result of which they're one. The Rebbe says, to break it down further, there are two aspects. One is an aspect in the light itself, and one is an aspect that the light is lacking without the Kli. What's the aspect within the divine light itself in which it needs and is similar to the Kli? That the Oir, so to speak, he's using a parable, the Oir, so to speak, evaluates and considers the receiver of its benefit. So the Oir, so to speak, thinks to itself and says, hang on a second, I need to figure out how to be regulated in order, I need to figure out how to transmit my light to the receiver so that they can receive it. So in other words, what's the Oir thinking, if we give personality to the Oir? It's thinking about the Makabel. That's already Keli. But that's within the Oir. Then there's another aspect, that the Oir cannot communicate and cannot transmit itself to the Makabel without the Keli. It's lacking. So there's two aspects. One is the condition of the Oir as it relates to the Keli, in contemplating its function. The other one is that which the Oir is lacking and needs in order for the Makabel to receive it. So one is within the Oir, and one is a aspect of let's put it this way. One is a chiyuv and one is a shlila. One is thinking positively, I've got to communicate and I've got to transmit onto the receiver in a manner that it could receive. And the other one is shlila, I am lacking. I am not able to do that on my own. In the first one, it's a chiyuv aspect that is, so to speak, a keli within the Oir.
Does one precede two, or are they really happening together?
Probably together. If you want to get really technical, you're probably talking about different dargis, different levels within the Oir itself. Okay? So that's in the Oir. The same thing is in the keli, where you have these two aspects as well. One within the keli, and one within the chiyuv in the keli itself. What's my function? And the other aspect is, without the Oir, who am I? Let's see how the Rebbe take a listen. Beis in Yonah there are also two aspects in the keli. Page Kuf Peches at the bottom, under the line. There are two aspects within the vessel in which it is similar and is related closely to the light, to the divine energy. Aleph. There's an aspect and a strand within the keli itself, in which it is similar to the divine energy, which is what? I am limiting it and I'm regulating it. For what purpose? For the purpose of it being able to fulfill its function. So in other words, I am not really a barrier, I am a means for revelation. So in other words, even though it's limiting, but the keli is a means for revelation. So in that sense, it's similar to the divine light. Beis, another aspect is in the Oir, and within the keli, which is the second aspect, that the keli, the vessel, so to speak, is lacking. What is it? What is it lacking? The keli, the vessel, is not able to fulfill its function only through the divine light, which complements the keli and allows it to fulfill its function of regulating the Oir for the purpose of revelation. That's a clarification of the Rebbe, that there are two, if you break it down even further, if you distill it, there are two aspects in Oir and two aspects in keli, in which each one is similar to the other, in which the Oir is similar to the keli and the keli is similar to the Oir, as a result of which we come to the explanation of how it's possible, despite the fact that apparently they're opposites, Oiris and kelim, Havayu Lekim Shamayim, the Oir and the Kli are all one. This is as it is in Shamayim in Atzilus. The Rebbe is going to continue with further elucidation in the following chapter.